So thank you and welcome to our panel on career transition as an international student. I'm delighted to have 5 alumni Ph.D. speakers here today to talk about their experiences as international students transitioning from academia into industry. So I'll keep this pretty brief. So I'm going to ask 3 questions. Each of the panelists can answer them. I suppose we can just go down the line if that works. And yeah, we'll ask 3 questions, have a Q&A session with all of you, and then a networking lunch. So without further ado, we can go ahead and get started. So yeah, I guess I'll just ask the first question and we can go ahead. So can you describe your current position, its responsibilities, and how you came to it?
That's good. Hi everyone. So this is Shubham Sharma. I am a senior scientist in computational material sciences at Pfizer. My role in general, I sit in the drug development aspect of Pfizer. And if you're not familiar with drug development in general, our main job is to make the medicines available outside the market. My role, or drug development in general, they don't really worry about what drug is going to cure what disease. That's the aspect of drug discovery, where they deal with finding out molecules or drugs that are going to cure a disease. Our role is to make sure that we develop them into tablets and bring them out to the market. So I, as a computational subject matter expert, work in Pfizer as a lead for solid form design, which means we make sure that the drugs that are coming out, they are safe, they are bioavailable, and they don't get into some risks when under manufacturability or when we store them, so that they're readily available to patients and are working just fine. And I use computational modeling techniques, quantum mechanics, statistical modeling, machine learning, AI, to do all the great scientific work. Yeah. If I might have missed how I came about this, my background is computational catalysis or computational modeling at Brown. So my thesis was using first principle calculations and density functional theory to work on atomistic modeling. However, I'm not from pharma field, as you would know. I'm a chemical engineering by background. My thesis was on studying surface reactions on fuel cells and some aspects of batteries. But I graduated in 21, moved to Lawrence Livermore National Lab for 1 year of a postdoc, where I moved into electrochemistry, so working on dissolution kinetics and stuff like this, metal corrosion from an atomistic standpoint of view. And COVID happened, so a friend of mine, called me and he asked me a question. I was like, hey, these kind of skill sets are quite really interesting in drug development pharma companies. Would you be interested? There's a position at Pfizer. So I said, yeah, sure. I don't really know much about it, but I can definitely, interview for this position if they would be interested to interview me. And so I sent my resume, and now I'm here. I've been working at Pfizer for roughly over 2 years. Yeah.
So you basically found your role through networking.
Yes, that's the key.
Which is actually very common. Yeah. My story is not actually, it's a rare, I really applied to a position that I saw on LinkedIn, and it's really, really rare. But so I'm Aslı Şahin, I'm a director at AbbVie Search and Evaluation Neuroscience team. So big pharma split their BD group into 2, search and evaluation and business development. So usually search and evaluation people have a PhD background, science background. So I graduated from molecular cell biology department in 2016. So I studied ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. So I'm a molecular biologist and neuroscientist. And after graduation, I actually went to postdoc at MGH, because I wanted to leave academia, but then you have to commit to jobs after academia. You have to accept something right on the spot and start 2 weeks later, as opposed to if you commit to a postdoc, sometimes you have to interview a year before your graduation. And I fell in love with the project that my postdoc advisor was working on, and I basically wasted my work permit. I spent, I actually did 3 years of postdoc, so in the meantime I had to sponsor myself for a green card in order to be able to get a full-time job. So we can get into those issues, visa type of issues later. But the way I came across to my role, I was actually at Allergan's External Science and Innovation Group, very similar to what I was doing. So they basically decided to hire fresh postdocs from academia to bring fresh perspective to the group. So I basically got lucky. I applied to what I saw, and I was the first and the last hire because Allergan got acquired by AbbVie. So my boss said, well, we'll make you start, but you can lose your job anytime. Be prepared. So luckily, when I joined, when the acquisition got complete, they have a rotation-based program called Strategy Leadership Program. So you actually spend 6 months in different departments within the corporate strategy office. So first I started that program, spent some time in search and evaluation and business development, and sort of AbbVie Ventures, and ended up in this role. And what I do is actually, so this is a neuroscience specific role, so my job is to know what is going on in the field. So I'm responsible from venture investments to business development, collaborations or research collaborations. So within the indications that we cover, if the scientists are working on forming a new startup or if there is a new exciting target, my job is to manage all those relationships, because in many cases, a company comes, pitches a technology to you. We usually tell them, well, you have to do this and that experiments, or you have to use this animal model. We steer them in the right direction, and then, you check in with them regularly. And if there is interest, then my job is to convince our internal leadership to, this is the best technology, this is the right partner that we should develop drugs together with. And, then I bring together basically due diligence team members from different functions, and we put together it's almost like, assessment of the opportunity, and we plan the next 3 years of collaboration. What experiments they will do, what should be the outcome, or what clinical trials should they run. And after we close a deal, form a partnership, then alliance management takes it over and manages that relationship in the next few years. Yeah, I think I covered everything. I went a little bit more than what I was supposed to. Sorry.
Hi, so I'm Youngmin Lee. I'm a patent agent at an intellectual property law firm called Colburn. Patent agent is a professional licensed by the United States Patent and Trademark Office to help inventors file their application and prosecution. So most of the thing I do is providing patent strategies to inventors, how to efficiently file, how to draft it, and also respond to office action when we get office action from the examiner after the patent has been filed. So we help throughout the whole process of prosecution. To become a patent agent, you have to pass the patent bar, which is also called as patent registration examination. So you need to be a U.S. citizen or a lawful resident to become a patent agent. And then once you get your registration number, you're allowed to practice before the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. How I came to this is that during my PhD, I didn't really have an idea that I'll go into the legal field, but I knew that I didn't want to stay in academia, and I tried to look for different positions such as national labs or other research facilities. And after I did my postdoc at MIT and then a postdoc at NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, I was exposed to more different types of career path that I could go through, which could include patent examiner at the USPTO or some science policy related jobs, because in Maryland area, DC area, there's a lot of different types of government labs and facilities that you can get exposed to, and that's where I started thinking of coming into the IP field. And at that time, my husband got a job at Georgia, so I had to look for something in Georgia, and I had multiple options. I was either thinking of going to the law school or just go into IP consulting firm or law firms, and one of the first offers I got was from the IP consulting firm, so that's how I entered into this field. And after about 5 years in IP consulting firm, which I usually do is like IP landscaping, so you analyze patents and then provide some strategic insights to your client, and also do private art search or like some due diligence work, as you mentioned earlier. And after about 5 years, I kind of felt like I still wanted to know more about the patent prosecution, which is actually actual filing of the patents, and how to respond to office actions and stuff. So that's how I looked for jobs in actual IP law firms. So, and actually before that, I was contacted by a colleague of my husband. So my husband was working at Georgia Tech. He was a professor, and one of his colleagues, who was another professor, made a bio startup, and he was looking for someone to do some technology transfer licensing. So I was involved in that for about 2 years too. So I did some licensing related work as well. And after that, I eventually came into this law firm, and it's been about 2 years and a half since I started here.
Hi everybody, I'm Isabella, and I'm going to answer the questions in reverse order, so it's chronological. I came from Brazil in 2017, got my PhD in 2022 in earthquake science. So in the geology department, or Earth Environmental Planetary Sciences department, it was a great place to be, but everybody was talking about like fighting climate change. I thought I wanted to be a professor in seismology and go on in my life, because that was pretty cool. But then I had this sense of urgency that I want to be part of energy transition and do something about climate change, and I thought I could with a PhD from Brown in this department. I said I wanted to be a professor, but I also wanted to live where I wanted to live. I wanted to live in New York City, in Manhattan, with my now husband. So that had me change my focus from academia to industry. And I found out about McKinsey, which is a consulting company. I assume people don't know about it. It's a consulting company that does everything, but they really like PhD students. And they sell themselves as like very academic, because it was founded by a professor in Chicago, University of Chicago. So I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I can help multiple clients in like big questions about sustainability and do different projects, because right now I don't know exactly what I want to do. I don't know if I want to do solar energy or wind farms or corporate sustainability. So I joined McKinsey. I didn't know much about McKinsey before I applied. I didn't know you had to do cases. I can talk about interview and other stuff if people are interested. It's like that's this whole process. But I was lucky to get an offer 1 year before I graduated. So after I graduated from my PhD, I went straight to McKinsey. I just left McKinsey 2 weeks ago. I can talk about the future, I can talk about the experience, but while I was a consultant, I did do what I wanted to do, the corporate sustainability. I helped startups that were doing sustainable cement, that were creating hydrogen for sustainable fuels. And while it was pretty cool and a lot of work, but I learned a lot, I couldn't see things from start to finish. I was doing strategy as opposed to what people call operations, where you like take the hand of the client and you actually like do the things with them. And the strategy world, even though like sounds pretty cool to be like, hey, why don't you do this and this, just giving recommendations, it felt like very shallow for me. I wanted to say things from start to finish. And because I really liked the work with startups, I thought I want to join a startup. So that's where I'm right now, and I'm happy to talk more about McKinsey before and after.
That's very cool. I'm Joey Bai. I graduated in 2022 as a PhD in cognitive science. So I joined Brown 2016, and it took 6 years for me to graduate. Part of the reason is in the middle. I should start from the beginning. So when I joined Brown in 2016, I wanted to become professor afterwards, because I studied psychology in undergrad, and with the motivation of kind of decode the mystery of human mind. I read some book before that, so I feel like, psychology is so mysterious and powerful. But then I went to university, realized right now in the university, people study human mind as if it's like an object. Like do experiment with it using scientific methods instead of what I read about Floyd and other, like Rogers, I forgot the name of the others, it's so long ago. But like, the text will only mention them using one page, that's it. So, but I turned out still was pretty interested in cognitive science. So I started to study more of the behavioral and cognitive ability instead of the mysterious part. And that's why I came to Brown. The professor, my mentor is Bill Warren in CLIPS, and we study pedestrian behavior together. So I was thinking, if I can study how a group of people walk together and how they avoid each other and walk by each other, that would be cool. Like if I can predict that, it's like a complex system. So I went into the lab and still wanted to be a professor, but after 3 years of study, I kind of the interest in me kind of got satisfied by the 3 years of doing experiments and data analysis, and also realize some of the reality in academia. So it's not just always doing things you are mostly interested in. There are also other stuff, like there are overhead on writing and applying for grants, like lots of the logistic, right? So I started to rethink what works for me as entirely with my life at hand as well, right? It's not just academic interest. So I wanted to go to industry. Then I picked the tech industry because lots of the skills I developed in the lab and in research is related to coding and data analysis. So I started to, from my third year, I started to take computer science classes. The first class I took was deep learning. The reason being, back then I think deep learning, there was AlexNet or some model just surpassed the human performance on an image that challenge. So that was like within 2 or 3 years in that time. So that was a big hype. Everybody wanted to learn deep learning back then. So that's the first class. Then I started to take more classes as I kind of advanced in that field, the knowledge, getting more knowledge in that field. In the end, I realized as a PhD student, if you took enough classes in CS that satisfy their master's degrees requirement, you can get a master's degree from CS. You can also apply for the Open Education, is that Open Education program? Yeah. And that one will give you 1 year of funding to do that. But even if you don't have that, you can still do that, but the funding will just not come from them. So that's how I gained also a master in CS from Brown. That's why it took me 6 years. So on my fourth year or third year, I also started to join the career fair and try to submit some resume to some tech company. I got no reply. It was pretty miserable, and but also that year my mindset was I just want to try that, right? Test the water. So it didn't hurt that much. Then the next year, I tried a little bit harder. My resume was polished by some friends who are already in the industry. I got 2 interviews. One is from TripAdvisor. That's from a campus recruiting event. So I received email. I didn't open the first time I saw it. I kind of waited until the end of the day. Procrastination, want to be perfect, whatever. And then they asked me to choose a slot during the day. I chose the last slot just to have more time to prepare. But then on that day, I think around lunchtime, I got an email saying the interview was canceled in the afternoon due to an on-campus event. And then later, I emailed them whether they should be scheduled, but they told me they already found the candidate. So it's never a fair game. It's always serendipity. Like if they found whoever they need, it will stop searching. Like it's not in their interest to find the absolute best candidate. That's a not very efficient solution for them, right? So that's a lesson. And then another interview I got was from Meta. It's a PhD position for machine learning, and I prepared for it, and the interview happened, but I didn't solve all the questions they gave me the tech interview, so also didn't got that offer. I was a bit disappointed because I did prepare for it for like a couple of weeks. And then the last time was 1 year before I graduate. I was again applying for summer internship, and I really spent a way much longer preparation compared to before. I prepared for 2 months before the first interview, and I got I think 3. I moved to the last stage with 3 companies, with Meta, Google, and Bloomberg. So Meta gave me the offer the earliest, so I just took that offer and did a summer internship. So the job content was machine learning recommendation system for back the Facebook game. Right now it doesn't exist anymore. Like basically working on algorithms to generate a bunch of videos that potentially will be interesting for the viewers to view. And then after that internship, I got a return offer. But unfortunately, when I joined the company, the timing was really, really bad. The thing is, they give you options to say like when do you want to join the company for the entire year in the range. You can join anytime during the year. I chose again a late time because I had some plan after graduation. But when I joined, they already freeze their hiring. But they still let people in because they haven't prepared how to lay people off yet, I guess, at that point. So I was just hired and waiting to be laid off. So I got laid off after a month. And then I started to, luckily I got the H-1B visa my first year. But unlucky part is the grace period is 60 days instead of 90 days compared to OPT. So that put me in disadvantage on the urgency in times. It was like rampage on job hunting for 2 months in a row, like full time. Back then I already moved to Seattle, so with the high wind and everything. And but luckily again, at the end of 2 months, CVS gave me an offer along with actually a scientific consulting company and also another startup. But back then my mindset is I want stability, so I chose CVS, which is like more stable. And right now at CVS I do machine learning work. I'm a senior machine learning engineer, and we build machine learning platforms for the data science and data engineers in the company.
Great, thank you all. So the second question is, did you come across any surprising or lesser known career opportunities throughout the job search process or while at your current position?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And just to answer that, add a little bit context, because when I was searching for job opportunities, I had a very specific mindset of looking for something which I kind of know, like I'm sticking to my particular field. Which when I was, I mean, taking a little back, when I was in my undergrad, I was a chemical engineer, and I saw a conference, people doing atomistic modeling. Had no clue, so I applied to several schools, including Brown, where I knew Professor Peterson's work on like doing atomistic modeling, but how, I had zero clue. Once I got in there, I fell in love with that so much that I thought that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and specifically working in the energy sector, because I used to work in fuel cells. So my dream company was, Toyota, for example, TRI. We had them a couple of times at Brown. So I started applying for, when I was in my final year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start looking into opportunities as a postdoc, because I was also interested in academia, but want to explore industry as well, because I really always wanted to see something that gets in the market based on my work. I know academia could be very fundamental. So when I was applying through these positions, one thing I realized that if I were to, go to LinkedIn and without networking, would go and put in the specifics that I had learned or the keywords that I learned during my PhD, I hardly found, any of the particular jobs in there. I would literally like quantum mechanics or density functional theory, which is something I thought I'm an expert of. There must be jobs regarding those. It took me some time and some networking to actually realize that the world outside academia is very different. It's very either product oriented or service oriented, and you may not find JDs or job descriptions with those. So in my search, and by the time all the way that I'm at pharma, I came across several different people who helped me realize how to search for jobs correctly, finding those right keywords, finding those right connections. And when I was interviewing, and I made up my mind I want to be in industry and move back to East Coast from my postdoc, I came across startups which were working in steel making. I came across companies that were doing machine learning modeling for manicures and pedicures, and which were wanted to hire people who had computational background or new programming or stuff like this. I found out several different postdoctoral opportunities across the globe which were using computational modeling, but not exactly in what I really feel I wanted. And then pharmaceuticals. Till I actually applied for the job, I just applied it with a fluke, because I thought my fiance, or to be fiance at that time, is living in East Coast, and Pfizer headquarters are close by. What's the harm in applying? It was only 4 months when I started my postdoc. I freaking loved there. I loved my time at Livermore. So there was no intention to join pharma. I had no clue. I in fact my interview presentation at Pfizer was on my PhD work, fuel cells atomistics, and how to make better catalysts. So I knew they probably won't be interested in this. But then I entered pharma, and now that I realize that it's the skills that we learned during the PhD, and so there are definitely job opportunities outside. Obviously, there are challenges with respect to visa, with respect to communication, but getting the networking can help you identify those keywords, which can help you identify options besides what we actually do or what we learned in the PhD. Yeah. So yes, the answer is yes. I got some opportunities was outside my completely background and my PhD. And this is one of the examples is me at Pfizer.
They probably didn't care about your PhD thesis topic in specifically, but they cared how you presented it, right? How you answered the questions.
And the skills too.
Yeah, exactly. So as I said, after my PhD, I went to do a postdoc, and I sponsored myself for a green card, NIW. Normally it takes 6 months. It took 3 years. So I had quite a lot of time to explore different career opportunities. I looked at, scientist positions in pharma. I looked at patent law. I took a lot of courses. So, Harvard is a good place to explore career. It's not a great place to be in academia, but so I was actually interested in joining big 3 consulting firms like Isabella did. In fact, I committed to one, and then I kept my job search, because you actually commit to these jobs 1 year earlier than your start date. So the job that I actually wanted to apply as soon as I got my green card was something called Tech Atlas at RA Capital. They hire fresh PhDs, postdocs. They do this disease atlas maps. The COVID one is available. I encourage everyone to look. So they basically match scientists with English literature majors and graphic designers to basically make this massive maps that you can actually visualize in a room, and then it lists everything, all the pain points, unmet needs, what has been being done, and they constantly, bi-weekly, updating those maps. So I thought I wanted to do that. And all of these things you are hearing through career events, or talking to people who graduated a couple of years before you did. And then, as I said, I saw Allergan's opportunity. Normally search and evaluation jobs are not available to junior people, so usually my colleagues are pretty senior, but they had a change of heart and they wanted to bring the company fresh blood, and I just got lucky, Or when AbbVie acquired Allergan, again, I freaked out a little bit, but also I was at the beginning of my career. I could start over from anywhere. Again, it doesn't matter what is your PhD in. It's the skills, really. The presentation skills. Even for consulting, I did a lot of cases. The way you put your conclusion first. I conclude this for 3 reasons. 1, 2, 3. Even just speaking like that. Gives you a lot of advantages later on. And of course, this rotation program that I did, there are a lot of rotation programs in big companies for MBAs. I've never seen anything open to PhDs, and I didn't know about it because AbbVie is a Chicago firm and they were looking for local candidates. So now they are posting it more broadly. But these are kind of niche jobs. For example, for this program, we hire 1 or 2 people per year. So again, you have to be at the right place, right time. Make sure to spread the word that everybody knows that you are looking for a job. Talk to as many people as you can, and you're gonna hear things that you haven't imagined. I always tell people, if I knew the search and evaluation job existed, I would want it, but I didn't know even it existed before, finding myself in it.
So for me, going back to my PhD, so I forgot to mention, but I have a degree in chemistry. I was working on nanomaterial synthesis at Professor Shari's group when I was here. And I had a seminar. There was a seminar from Professor at MIT, Yang Sharon. She just had a lot together with our group and other students at that time. And I wasn't really interested in going to academia again, as I said, because I thought that there are many people who was really good at research. Even though I felt it was very interesting, I thought I could do something better in other places. So I was more focusing on something outside of academia, such as national research staff or some other IP career, as I mentioned. But very coincidentally, she contacted me first if I would like to become a postdoc at her lab. So for me, it was very constantly I started to jump into the next postdoc job from the professor. And there, again, I thought that, okay, there's so many smart people who can do research very well. And I think there's more strength for me that I can do more different, go different pathways. And I thought like data analysis or some problem solving skills in a different way would be a better fit for me. So that's how I thought of more different career paths. And once I started looking into the IP career, there's actually multiple ways that you can go. So you can first go to law school and become a patent attorney after passing the bar and also the patent bar. Other ways is that you can start as a technical advisor, which means that you still provide some technical insights to when drafting a patent application or doing some patent analysis, but you don't have a license for the patent agent. So you can start off that way, and it doesn't require to be a citizen. So many postdocs can start looking into those kind of jobs if they are interested in IP careers. Although it's really difficult to enter without having a dedicated plan for becoming a patent agent or an attorney. So if you really are interested in to go into that field, take a lot of classes. She mentioned that there are many like free webinars that you can take to, and also some courses that you can take, and many resources at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website. And so first you can start looking into that. And also at the university there's a technology transfer office that you can start your IP career. So some schools have some internship that you can start working in, and in those places, which is actually helping researchers at the university to help their invention to commercialize. So those are the things that they do at the technology transfer office. So it's a good place that you can put your step into that. And other positions, currently I'm working at a law firm, but you can also work at a company in-house. So rather than looking at a law firm for different companies, you can go to one company and then focus on their products or inventions. And also, as I mentioned, you can become a patent examiner at the USPTO, although this requires you to be a U.S. citizen, I believe. And you can also find some other government-related jobs or nonprofit organization in the IP field. But yeah, as other speakers said, it's great to have yourself exposed to people. So just expose that you're interested in this career and talk to many different people and go to seminars or career events like this that you're doing, and that'll help a lot. Yes.
That's good. Yeah, I'm gonna answer this question by saying the way I see job search is a spectrum. In this side, it's you can be very reactive in your job search, meaning just you apply to whatever is open, or you can be active and maybe make your own role. But I can talk about this later. And I was in this side, more on the active side. What I did was I reflected and saw what are the skills that I have. This is during PhD that I want to have. What was so appealing about academia to me that I want to have in industry? What are the things that I'm good at, and what are the skills that I wanted to develop? And like Shubham says, take the keywords, take the skills. In my case, I like doing presentations at conferences. I got awards for presentation at conferences, so I thought, okay, I'm good at this. I like doing that, but I like to give presentations on a topic that's very new to me. That's the challenge I want. So maybe a different industry. That's what he meant. So I also mentioned before for McKinsey, I had this like self-reflection, and then McKinsey was the perfect job, and then I applied and I got in. But I've been going through the job search again more recently, and knowing what you're good at and what you want to develop is the key to find the job. And you'll be surprised, and you're gonna see many different things. Maybe you think you're only doing chemistry, you can only be in a lab doing chemistry, but actually you can develop makeup. You can do other things just by following the skills. More recently, I've encountered, I said, a makeup company. I did an interview for a makeup company, but they're like, I've seen many different jobs. In my case, I said I did strategy at McKinsey, so strategy is something I want to do. It's like a vague word, but it means that you can learn something very quickly, make an Excel model, data analysis, put in a PowerPoint and talk in front of people. So I want to do that. And if I type strategy on LinkedIn, I'll see everything. There are like many different jobs. I've applied for like real estate strategy and sustainability, like various different things. So yeah, from my experience, I found, again, I can talk about this later because I have many examples of companies I've came across, but as an advice, I would think about what do you get at, what do you want to develop, but make sure that you have to have the part that's what you get at to get the job and to get the interview.
I didn't have the mindset of creating a role for myself. That's kind of adventurous. I really respect that. I remember what I did first in terms of job hunting is just look at the position available, like just browsing on the internet, see, this is a company that looks really good, really prestigious. I want to look at their career page to see what they offer. And then that's when I have the anxiety attack. I was like, I didn't do any of this. And even if I found some keyword like perception, I will link to the human perception, but they really mean different things. So I guess just start to look at those positions early and look at the descriptions will give you a sense of like what's on the market, what's needed. And from there, trying to find any connection to your skill. But of course, there's a way to come from yourself as well, like what Isabella said. Elizabeth.
Isabella.
Isabella. So, you can go to the museum for free, right?
I do, yeah.
Nice. So, if you come from when I come from myself, my approach was not kind of gathering my skill set and see what position would fit me. But I looked people around me, kind of from my lab and my advisor, like what kind of resources they have, because that put me a really good advantage compared to other people who just search for that job. So I forgot what I got, the resource I got, because the resource was only useful for me after graduation. Like when I actually searched for that, those were not helpful, but it could be those that ended up help you. It's just in my case, those didn't. So remember, I got laid off and I found 3 offers. One of it is the scientific consulting. That's the company actually that reached out to our department and give a career talk. So they're actively searching for a specific type of talents, and once you have those contacts, it's always nice to, although you may not be interested at the moment, but save the contacts and maybe talk to the person, leave some impression. Maybe one day you need them. Just saying. Yeah, and another thing is if you are facing a very tough career market, job market, one good option is postdoc. If you're talking about postdoc, then your professor, your mentor might be very helpful for you. Like they have connections. Also, if you run out of luck, they don't have connections, just search on using the energy of industry job hunting on postdoc. You will be on a huge advantage because people like searching for postdoc, they're sometimes less aggressive compared to industry. So when I was searching for something after being laid off, I found a postdoc position actually. I talked to the professor, and the preparation was way much easier compared to other industry job, because giving academic presentation is what we've been trained for so many years, and your competitors are way less, because the topic can be very specific. You can just find one that you have the skill set for it. You may not have the whole domain knowledge, but maybe your skill set can have some overlap. They will take it, because the professors who are hiring for postdoc, they don't have the audience as the industry job. Like, they don't have the privilege of like submitting one job post one day, they got like tens of thousands of applicants. So that's good for you. If you just want something, to work on, when other things are too tough.
Yeah.
That's my advice on this.
Also, there are not many, like people who are looking for academic jobs with a degree from Brown, so you are automatically, one of the top candidates. So it's always an option.
Yeah.
So for our final question before the Q&A, can you share with us a little bit about your experience transitioning from academia to industry? What were some challenges you encountered while still a grad student during the transition and at the job?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, and it takes into account not just like international students, but I'm going to use some of the key points the other speakers mentioned and some personal story. I think one of several challenges. I mean, this is obviously job hunting or grad school is not easy, and we do it because we love it, and I actually, at least I love it. When I moved so I'm originally from India, and I moved from India. There was so many things that was going on. Obviously, I'm far away from my family, so there's cultural barrier to get into. You want to fit in. You heard about Brown, you heard about US, but haven't been there before, so all you've been accepted is based on your CV, or maybe you try to network with your professor, and then you always start questioning yourself. So I think my first year at Brown, before even I got into had that confidence to apply for a job, I was like, do I really fit in here? There's really smart. I'm like swimming with the sharks. Am I one of the big sharks or not? And that was a big challenge. And it was the fantastic thing was the first day I attended Brown, one of the speakers who was addressing us, they said like at some point in your life, you're in grad school, you're going to doubt that you really fit in here. And the best thing about that is every one of you is doing that. So you don't have to worry about competition with other people. It's your own journey. So gaining the confidence that you love what you do and you can sell what you do, and having that soft skills is kind of the key challenges that I thought shaping up during the first 3 years at my time at Brown really helped me with job search and job market. The other challenge was I don't really know, and I thought this is where I always bring in networking. I didn't really know what to look for. I applied for internship. I applied one day, and next week I got a rejection. I went and did an internship in Livermore, where my advisor knew someone. They worked together. They recommended me. I got an internship at Lawrence Livermore National Lab in 2018. But in 2021, before I was about to graduate, I got an email from the same advisor said, "Hey, we want to hire a postdoc, and you work with us, and we like your work. Would you like to come back as a postdoc?" So I was like, "Oh wow, networking really worked. Somebody really helped me get there." But then I helped them showcase that I can do good work, and then they want me back. The second thing was, while I was applying for postdoc positions in the final year, I applied to a position for a postdoc at NREL, National Research, somewhere in Colorado, Denver, and I applied in the morning at 9, and by 4 p.m. I got a rejection letter. So and I talked to my advisor, Andy was like, "Oh well, you don't really know what really happened. They probably had a candidate in mind." And backshot, now at my time at Pfizer, we see that all the time. We open a position for someone internal or someone right candidate in the mind. We keep it open on LinkedIn for like 2 days. Hundreds of applications apply. we hired that one person with the job position was created for. The rest 99 people are going to feel they don't fit in, or they were not qualified. But that's not the case, and this is where networking is very important. I felt like when I applied for Pfizer's job, I actually got to talk to someone at Moderna, someone at AbbVie, at Pfizer, who actually told me what this job could entail, because the job descriptions are completely generous. And I asked them a question like, hey, my challenge is I am coming from a completely different background, and I want to be here in this company doing this job, but I don't really know anything about it. And like, if I were to go and present something about my previous work, will they even find it useful? And something they told me, which was like opened my eyes, is like, tell me about one time where a pharma company did an R&D work on a particular compound and you know everything about it. And I'm like, maybe not. Like, the reason is all these proprietary companies, they have IP. We don't expect you to know because we don't share anything with you guys. What we expect you to know is like, if we give you enough tools, will you be able to do this job for us? And this is where the skills comes in. So having these connections and these networks who can actually help you identify what the right questions to ask, and how to build your CV or resume, so that instead of focusing on what you did, what you can do, and what tools you can bring in, was I think a major challenge for me to overcome and understand, which I feel more comfortable right now if I ever go back into the job market.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Also, like I mentioned, the visa challenges, right? So you with a degree from Brown, most of you will be eligible for sponsoring yourself for a green card. Definitely talk to a lawyer. Usually, talking to lawyers are for free. At least have an idea. And what else I was going to mention? I remember. So I was actually the only international student in my department. So I thought, me being international, not being a native speaker, was going to be a challenge. And even like thinking about patent, like I'm like, can I do it? I'm not a native speaker. It's it's in your head. Don't limit yourself. And if you go outside of Brown, Rhode Island, it's like US is such an international place, and you being international and being here show how ambitious you are. So don't limit yourself, basically.
Yeah, so for me, I'll talk more specifically for the IP field. So the challenges I have, again, is the language. When I first thought about going into this career, but because specifically for legal field, I kind of had a vague fear that language skills like reading, writing, and those are really important, and you need like intense training for that. So that was my initial hesitation, but I really wanted to do something that I can use my chemistry background and connect it to something else outside of research or academia. So once I started my dedication to that, and once I started, I realized that it's really what's more important is actually the skills that you learn during your PhD, like problem solving and logical thinking. That's more important than just language skills. So don't be too afraid, as she said, like don't limit yourself to as being not a native speaker. And just also like as other speakers mentioned, if you have a Brown PhD, you're already like very top qualified. So even if you're going to different fields, they know that you have good dedication and you did a good work already. So you already are among the top candidates, even if you don't have that specific experience. Although for IP field, it's difficult to enter into it. So you'll have to do a lot of experience before actually becoming, not becoming an agent, but to enter into the field. So as I mentioned earlier, you can do some internships and take a lot of webinars or classes related to that. And how I started was I started as a IT consultant at a consulting firm. So you can start your way into that there, and then just build up your career. And there's no like one direct pathway to go to what you want at the end. And there are very different options to come to that place. So as I did, like I started doing postdocs, and then after I entered into the IP field. But that all really built up my strength. So yeah, don't worry about not going into the place that you want to go right now. But there's also always like different pathways that you can go. And that I don't think it's a waste of time at all, and it definitely helps you. So those are some advice I'd like for you to keep in mind. And there was a senior staff member at National Lab when I was going for interviews, and what he said was, there's no wrong pathway. It's just all different. So just keep that in mind, and that really resonated with me when I was doing job searches.
Good. I'll answer the first part of the question first. So I had two main challenges as an international student at the job. One being networking, and the second one, soft skills. And I know networking is soft skills, but I put it separately. And that's two the things that you guys could do right now if people relate to what I'm going to share. For a consulting company, your success is very directly related to how good at networking you are. And networking means how you connect with people, how you communicate, and how you maintain relationships. Like finding a mentor at the company, and this can be not just consulting, and then making sure you have weekly meetings with your mentor for 10 minutes. Making sure you have, monthly meetings with people that you think you can learn from. And that was hard for me as an international student or international person, you ask, because I feel like everybody else had like a jump start. People knew, like, my father worked for this guy, so he's already my mentor. And my parents, my dad didn't finish primary school, my mom didn't finish high school, like my family couldn't get anything. So I think it was confidence too. Like I had a hard time finding the leaders that I could like rely on and like be very just like pushy on being like, I want you to be my mentor, let's talk. So if you can practice that skill right now, and also like talking to everybody in this room, just like practice talking to people and learning from each other, and maybe one day you'll need each other, and that'll be great. The second piece I mentioned about the job is soft skills, and I think that means a lot of things for different jobs. And McKinsey, one of the soft skills I had to learn that was hard for me at the beginning was thinking out loud, because it's a collaborative space. You have to say your thinking, and I'm an introvert. I like to be quiet on my side. I like to say, okay, this is the problem. Okay, I'm gonna go to the office and then I'll come back with the answer. But at McKinsey, you have to say everything you're thinking out loud. So that's a skill too that you can practice right now. It'll be good if you want to do management consulting, but also it's very good if you work in any job that is collaborative. And then the second part of the question was challenges while in grad school, transitioning to a job. And I'll say the biggest one was making sure you finish all your duties in grad school before you leave. All your papers you have to write them now. Don't tell your advisor you're gonna write later, because it might not work. Because you're gonna work a lot after probably I don't know. Like if you're getting a PhD, I don't think you're looking for a 9-to-5 job. That's very easy. You want something challenging, and you're used to working hard. If you're anything like people in my department, used to work on the weekends, so you're going to continue working hard. You're not going to have time to finish your papers. I finished mine before. Do that too. But yeah, I don't think there were many challenges. I think the biggest one is telling your advisor you're gonna leave academia and breaking their heart. And the second one is just coordinating how you're gonna write the papers. But other than that, it's just, if you have an offer before you graduate, it's just pretty good. So.
Well, as listening to my own life, we were talking about the papers. So I didn't finish all the papers, and also like what's the other thing you mentioned? 9-to-5 job. I was the one who was actively looking for a 9-to-5 job because I worked a lot on weekends off time at Brown. I wanted to have, I only feel a different life just to try it. And to me, the biggest challenge is actually to get the sense of control on progress of the things you're doing. Because here at Brown, like you can work over time, then you will see progress, right? You can control, like it's because you are probably a large part of your project, if not the only person in your project, right? But in company, there are lots of factors that you cannot control. The product design is finished by somebody else as an engineer. Like for me, the strategy is set by the company. Then the product is designed by someone, and then the product owner has a vision of the product. And then some higher level engineer will give you kind of a grand architecture, and you just do your part. If at some point you feel like, the architecture or the product strategy is not working, it's really hard for you to help, even if you work extra hours and you feel frustrated and you think about it, you want it to work. It doesn't work that way. It's the entire team, so that you don't have the how to say the control, the stiffness. You put a force, then there's a reaction. There's no that stiffness anymore. So it's more like sailing in the wind. So if you can take advantage of the trend or the environment, then you can see things working well for yourself. But if you want to fight against the trend, it might not work for yourself or the team. Because, for example, if I want to push one direction really hard, and the other people will feel even offended, like we have this direction and you are not listening and you're going to that direction, you think is correct. And also, even if you are working in the same direction but at a different pace, you would think that's a good thing, but once you experience a teammate working in that style, you will feel the harm. Because when you want to have 9-to-5 work and you have one or two teammates or few are working constantly extra hour, that gives you pressure to kind of do the same, right? So, it's lots of those things. You want to keep in the same pace with your team. And this way you can have a good working relationship. Then people will, have the mindset to listen to your opinion, to have the communication. So that's something I didn't need to do at Brown. That's a challenge. So that's when you're already in the job, right? But before the job, there's also similar challenge. Like you lost the kind of control in terms of the randomness in the result, the things you do. Like you apply for a job, and then there's rejection, and the immediate reaction is I'm not good, so I'm not meeting their standard. Well, like if you're at school taking an exam, maybe that's the case. Like you need to study harder, but applying for a job maybe is just because your resume was never looked at, or like what Shubham said, who said that? Shubham said the candidate was already set. The job was created for the candidate, and you were just playing with them and acted a role in the play. And I would say when you see the result of your action after you graduate, don't take it too personally. Try to analyze it critically and see what part you can work on, what part you just need to try more. Sometimes you just need to try more and it's luck. When I applied for a job after getting laid off, I applied 200 or some position. I got only less than 10 interviews, and some interview just went really well, but they cancel the position or they hire somebody else. And there was like for CVS, it was actually I got the interview through a connection, and turns out my roommate first year at Brown, he was working like it was a working relationship with another VP in CVS, and then I got a recommendation from VP level. That's why I got an interview, and turns out the interview was compared to the other interview I failed was way easier. So I feel like all my effort is not the key that I got the job, but somehow like this opportunity, not luck, to put it simply. So yeah, just keep trying and don't feel frustrated because you feel like you didn't work hard enough. It's just try it and keep a positive attitude, just enjoying the moment. And once you feel like you're making progress every day and you feel happy every day, that's the most important.
I can actually add on to that. So I've been looking at different perspectives and job hiring. So many times it's not the work, as you said, not the work you did or how well you did. It could be the area, the specific field, or the people who are hiring you can be looking for how collaborative you could be within the team. That's a very important skill. And also, many people, they want someone that has reference already. So networking is really important in that sense too, because they want to know if this is a person that can fit into their team. And also, I can speak on behalf of my husband, who is actually in academia, and the same case. So it's not the work, how many papers you publish or how many great papers you publish. It could be more like what's the specific field that the department is looking for at that moment, or there could be some other levels of different reasons that you are not hired. So just don't be so disappointed that if you get rejection or anything. It's just like it was not the right time for you. Yeah. So it really depends on many different situations. So don't get discouraged just because of that.
And just to add on to that, I think I think I resonate with all of the key points the speakers mentioned. Specifically, one where communication is the key. I feel as an international student, when I first came in, and obviously we learned English during our school time in India, but we would not speak that as fluently or all the time. I would talk to Hindi most of the time with my friends in here. So when I came here, the way I would communicate with someone, or especially if I were to go to a conference and I would be one of the audience members, I would reiterate the question 3 times in my mind and make sure that I say the right thing, and I'll still screw up a couple of times. And eventually it just goes away. It's just with practice. And I think events like these specifically, and I'm going to quote my closest friend who was also a PhD student. He now works in Amazon in Seattle, Bardia. He was one of the commencement speaker, and he said that he had trouble with talking to people, and he would come and attend Brown events, but just because it was free food. And I think it was a great motivation to come and start interacting, and then he found people like me who had the same issues, and we would talk and interact, and eventually we started communicating well and realized how important is selling yourself and communicating, because sometimes it's not just the science or what you do. I think having a PhD as several said from Brown puts you in a tier league that you are qualified, you know your science background, but would you be able to tell it to someone who has no idea what you do? So I think that's I feel was one of the other challenges that Brown helped me overcome, and the people at Brown helped me overcome. Yeah.
One final comment, maybe not unrelated, but so this is a networking event that we are here as a panelist, but don't forget to network with each other as well, because most of the jobs that you will be applying after grad school, they are still beginning, like more junior positions. In many cases, one of you will go one direction, the other one will go to other direction, but they can merge later on. So it's very important to learn from each other's experiences as well.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. So now we have some time for Q&A with all of you. So yeah, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. Yes.
I think I have the most basic question. Like, what resources did you use to start looking and applying for jobs? Like, what are some of the resources that you use?
So, I would look at LinkedIn, and if you apply for a job, make sure look at the company and try to find someone internal. One, they can refer you. Never hesitate to ask someone to refer you, because if you get the job, they would make money. So in most of the cases, never feel bad. And two, they can tell you, oh, we actually have an internal candidate in mind for that, so that you don't waste your time. And they can also say that, well, that title looks interesting, but that's not a good job. You should run away, or it's not a good department to work at. Try to get some insider opportunities, but don't wait for a job to be posted, right? Think about people whose career that you see you resonate with. Reach out to them and just speak. Because they say, oh, I actually want to hire someone in 6 months. And then they may just reach out to you.
What's your field?
I'm a PhD student in theoretical physics, but I'm looking to transition into quantitative finance.
Okay. Yeah, their websites, I wouldn't know for sure for quant finance, but I'm sure there will be a website that only has those jobs. And sometimes they won't post those on LinkedIn. I'll look for places that have the jobs that I want, like if it's a broad category. For me, I'll look for websites that do sustainability, and there are many of them. And I've seen posts there, especially for startups, that they don't post on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn for sure is the best platform for the networking piece. You can see who went to Brown and say 5 alumni work in this company. Reach out to them, to the 5 of them, send a message. Maybe one's gonna respond, maybe nobody's gonna respond, but message everybody. Have the conversation, understand the role, understand what they're looking for. Maybe it's 6 months from now, but yeah, it's a process. But if you say I'm gonna look for a job for 2 hours a day every day, it becomes more manageable.
Yeah, just to add, I think LinkedIn again was the key job search for me, for industry, but for academia, at least maybe I don't know if it's the same for theoretical physics or not, but we had mailing lists like Psyche or Psyche, which would post postdoctoral opportunities and jobs related to academia, which was, I think you get it, it's globally postings, and sometimes they happen to put some industry positions as well. But as Isabella said, I think the connections through LinkedIn, an active part of searching those, where if you make a connect, don't wait till the job to come. If you make a connection, you might be just interested in knowing what they do, and then I think the tendency for someone to reply back to you increases if somebody is there on my personal experience, and just because if somebody messages me looking for a job right away, but if I've seen them somewhere, I think, or I have known them through my LinkedIn for quite a few times, I kind of know what they've been doing because they come to my feed several times, and I tend to reply to them faster because oh yeah, I've seen you several times, here it is, you are genuine, really asking me for a genuine question, I can reply right away. So I think that really helps, adding them well in advance.
Some of the jobs are field specific. I will just reach out to someone who did the transition recently in a couple of years and ask them directly. I think those would give you the best advice.
Also, there's some recruiters that you can contact too, like headhunters.
Oh yeah, of course.
I think the best route you can do is to personally know if the person is working for the company and they have the opening, And if you can get the direct recommendation, you can bypass a big crowd, and it's a big saving for the company too. That's why they are doing this. Because large scale recruiting, it's a lot of energy,
Money.
right? Money, energy, and if you get that connection, it's mutually beneficial. And then for LinkedIn, if you don't know anyone directly or for the company, then LinkedIn search very helpful. Like filter by Brown alumni, definitely helpful. From the other side, when I receive LinkedIn invitation, like friends request from Brown, it's definitely no brainer. Except sometimes I just accept that they give me an introduction and I just directly reply, do you need a referral? I want to cut the chase. Just know that like people are willing to help alumni.
Yes.
People once you step in the society, not society. Once you graduate, once you graduate, like you don't know people around you, right? But you have a school there. Although you never interact with the alumni, and maybe the person already graduated so many years. But just the mark, there's Brown and Mark. It brings you memories. You feel like you are in the same group. You're already a lot closer compared to other strangers to that person.
Right. Makes sense.
And I think this is a great point, because every time if there's someone from Brown reaching out, and I think I've seen people looking for opportunities in job discovery, and they probably would not know. Let's say somebody doesn't know a lot of people at Pfizer, or they're applying in Pfizer or any other company, and I'm sitting in drug development, but they're interested in, like, say, clinical trials or discovery, and they don't really know them. If what happens to me, if I get a request like this, it's like, all right, let me connect you to someone who may know, and this way, coming from someone who may know them is, you can help, you can use your resources to connect to some more resources. And maybe I may not be knowing the hiring manager, but maybe I know someone who may know the hiring manager for that position. And it's important to get your CV to the hiring manager, because as Joey mentioned, a lot of times it's extensive. When you apply directly through LinkedIn, maybe the way it goes through is an HR, and HR gets like 200 applications, picks 20, sends it to the hiring manager. So your CV may not reach the hiring manager at all, who actually makes a decision. So if you use a connection, goes directly to the hiring manager, there is a chance that you might get an interview.
Thank you.
Firstly, thank you all for an amazing panel. My question, which we've touched on a little bit already, is for those who have done postdocs. What motivated the decision to do a postdoc in between industry and academia? And I guess looking back, what were the pros and cons would you recommend looking at a postdoc opportunity after graduating?
I did a postdoc.
Would you like to start? Oh, sure. So again, for my case, I knew I wanted to do research at that time, but didn't want to stay in academia. So I was searching for national lab postdocs, and there was like a proposal that I could write for NIST, and I was accepted for that after getting it. But in between, I was contacted by professor at MIT, so I just started. Why not, do another great opportunity? So I started at MIT and then moved on to NIST afterwards. But so kind of it's like I knew that I wanted to not do something, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do afterwards. And at least I wanted to keep on expanding on my research that I did at that time and my skills for science. So that's how I started off going to postdoc. And while I was doing postdoc is where I figured out, I really want to go to the IP field. So this is kind of like maybe like a intermediate step for me for my career. So that's how I thought, how I entered that, and it really helped me in that to learn different research environments, which is a very good addition to your whole career. And one in academia and one in national lab. So that's also a different environment. So I know what their lifestyles are and what fits better for me. So that was very good for me to actually experience that. And also for my second postdoc, it expanded my view in what other science-based other careers that I could go through. So that really helped me. And so I think there's more pros than cons. Some people might think that it's just like waste of time if you don't go to directly what you want to do. But for me, I thought everything was really valuable. And also the connections that you can build during that is also very helpful. And eventually, I think that helped me get into the IP field because of my background of different experiences. So it really turned out good for me. What other question was that? Were there?
I guess just, you kind of answered both. Looking back, would you recommend a postdoc? But thank you.
Yeah, I would recommend it. If you have already something like really straightforward, just go for it. But I don't think you have to be afraid of not going into it right away. And I'll probably just, if I were to go back, I'll still go do my postdoc.
For me, I wanted to become a professor actually. Like I even had the decorations that I was going to hang towards, because I studied with Portuguese. I had a lot of Drosophila art with me. I still have it somewhere, and I actually, so my thesis was creating an ALS model and discovering new targets. So, I hit something and my postdoc advisor found the same things in a completely different model. So when I met him, actually, he gave a seminar at Brown. That's how I met him. It was like a science lab, I'm like, this is it for me. And, but then, so his lab was in Boston. I was single, like being in academia at Brown is so much fun. Everybody's happy. In Boston, everything is expensive. You can't afford anything, and people are just seeing, being Harvard, MIT is just to be able to switch careers. Everybody's like trying to leave. So it's such a different environment, and I kind of knew it. So despite knowing all of it, I went, and in my mind, so I had a plan. That's why I had 3 years of work permit. Unfortunately, I had to stay at Brown for a little while. There was a patent issue, I had to sort it out. And then I gave myself a year. I said, if I cannot get a grant because my professor actually promised me a bigger salary, it never happens. And they actually announced those grant results a little bit later, so I wasted some time on that. But I keep saying waste, but it's not waste. Again, being there, I explored so many career options. And to be honest, I thought that I hated science at that point. I was pretty lost. It comes back. So it's a path, I'm Turkish. In Turkey, we have a lot of generalized exams. So, you have to succeed. If you fail, your life is over, basically. It's like black and white. But in real life, there are so many paths. It doesn't matter what you do. It's just, the only thing that matters is, the next job, if you decide to, let's say, go to industry, your salary would be the same as starting a fresh PhD graduate versus, let's say, 7-year postdoc. So that's the only difference. But when you make enough money, it doesn't matter how much you make.
Yeah, I think for me, it was just trying to figure out what I really want to do. Grad school was, towards the end of it, for example, was writing a thesis. My advisor was great, but obviously making sure that my advisor is not mad at me not finishing the work, even if that never happened. There was always constant feel okay, I have stability at grad school because I have 5 years of my F1 visa at Brown. After that, if final year is just so much to take care of, I haven't figured out if I want to do in academia or I want industry. I knew I don't like teaching as much, so it's what else? So luckily that Lawrence Livermore National Lab worked out for me. It was a position as a postdoc and no teaching involved in it, and there is a career transition to become a staff scientist if I go in there. Unlike other postdocs, and I always go with, I think the way I try to go into a new place or a new group is I always make sure who I'm working with, the mentor. It was very important to me. At Brown, it was very important who I'm working with. And so was like the relationship with my new mentor at postdoc was equally important because I'm looking for a place where I can go and also probably search for a job in the future because we all know postdoctoral positions are temporary. So one key thing that I got advantage of, like it's a 2 + 1 year of postdoc, so you get 2 years for sure, and then an additional 3 years if you want, 1 year if you want to work. So I was like, okay, I have a 3 year of stability here, with nothing hanging around my neck that if I don't do this, I won't get my PhD degree. So this would give me enough time to not only pursue science but also look for opportunities for jobs. So that gave me some sort of a mental peace, and I thought like, oh, postdoc was really helpful. On the other hand, I've had some friends and colleagues who did postdoc, but they had a 1 year contract, and they were like, they love the science. They are also trying to figure it out, but they always they're always trying to be like, oh shit, now I have to study, do the work, as well as find a job. Now I have to figure out what I'm going to do in the next 1 year. So the pros and cons and what group you are at, what's your career aspirations. But I recommend postdocs to people if just gets you out of the space of what you're comfortable with and gives you an opportunity to figure out other things around.
If I can add one thing, so look at the labs, other postdocs, what do they do when they are done with that lab? Like are they going to industry, are they finding faculty positions? Because if I did that, I wouldn't join my postdoc, for example, because no one from that lab actually goes to a faculty position because it was still a starting lab, and and sometimes like I interact a lot with faculties, and some of them, they do great science, and before I recommend to someone, I always find a postdoc or PhD student who work in their lab to really learn how that professor is towards the students, right? Then I recommend it to people.
Boils down to networking.
Yeah, exactly. See, it comes back to networking. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you all.
So we have time for one more question. You were first, go ahead.
So I think a few of you mentioned that you were simultaneously applying to positions in different industries. I'm a little hesitant about that because, like, for consulting, you need to do case studies. For coding, you need to do their code training stuff. How was your experience, and how do you approach it?
Yeah, I can start. For McKinsey, I said I'm very lucky because I only applied for McKinsey and I did the cases just for McKinsey. But more recently, all the jobs I applied to in the last few weeks had a case and had different cases. Sometimes I had to do Excel for a week and then present, and then do PowerPoint and present. Or just do PowerPoint for a week and present, and then 24 hours, or we talk for 10 minutes, they leave the room. I do a PowerPoint and an Excel model. They come back in 40 minutes. So it's a lot of work because different industries, but some of the skills are the same. So thinking on structuring your thoughts before you say, numbering, the way you give your recommendations, being more general to more specific. Obviously, for different industries, you have to learn different industries, but I'm very curious. I like learning new things. For me, that wasn't much of an issue because that gives me energy. The Excel, if you have to do cases, I don't know if you would do that, but just being very fast in Excel and doing shortcuts, presentation, it's just it's all the same thing. The industry varies, yes. If you're curious, that's to your advantage. If you're not, it's probably going to be good for you to have, to just learn a little about other things. And you're going to be thankful even though it's not very fun in the middle. But yeah, we can talk more about that if you want.
Also, you can work backwards, for example, consulting positions. They have a hiring time, right? May, or they have early hires. So you can just learn those timelines, and they would hire it for the next year. And let's say when you do cases, you just get a hang of it once, and you don't necessarily need to do it over and over again. So you can basically, depending, I mean, your heart will show you where to go as well, you know. You'll be able to that.
And one more to add is, so be open-minded to different paths or different fields of your work, because many times they don't look at, it's hard to find like the research or job position that's exactly the same as what you're doing right now. So as long as everyone's other speaker said, as long as you have the skill set of understanding the science and analyzing the technology quickly and applying your skills to that, it's fine to go to a little different direction. So just be open-minded, not to like focus on the specific research that you did in your PhD. And yeah, there are gonna be more opportunities in that way.
And just one more thing, the difference in industry, my hypothesis for me is that I still don't know exactly, like I'm passionate about many things. Maybe there's something that I'm going to be super passionate about that I don't know yet. So I'm eager to learn about the industry. But if that's not your hypothesis about yourself, you don't need to do different industries. You know, like I like that one industry and this is what I'm going to go for. And that's 100% fine. It's better for you.
I can go next. So I think you can be very practical or strategic on this, because you definitely have a range of skill, right? And you can group those skills for different type of industry. For me, I had most of my energy was preparing a technical interview, like doing lead code questions, basically. And that part can cover all the tech company or like tech position within a traditional company. Those all the job I can apply by this preparation. And another preparation is we're all PhD and we done research before. We can make presentations, and this can serve a lot of the preparation for consulting. But maybe it's the consulting firm I look for is more specific, so it's not like general consulting. So I didn't need to do any extra preparation other than shorten my thesis dissertation presentation into a 10 minutes talk, basically, then present to them. That's all the prep I need to do. Also, of course, look at what they're doing and do some search, but that doesn't take that long. So that you have 2 areas you can apply for.
And just to add to Julie, I think I completely agree. I think you can strategy. First of all, it's a full-time job. Finding a job. It's it looks brighter the green from this side, but when I was applying, it's like you work either your postdoc and then you go back home and then you keep on applying. And if I were to apply for write 6 different cover letters for 6 different jobs, asking 6 different things, it's a lot of work. Sometimes you just focus on 2 and then the 4 is just I'm applying just for the sake of applying. But just planning and strategically timing yourself is it's not in your hand. There's a times where you're going to apply for 4 jobs at the same time. You might get 4 calls within the same week or within the same time. So we can't really plan ahead of that. What we can plan is they're probably going to have the same technical requirement if from the field you are at, whether it's going to be for my case, either be asking for my programming skills or machine learning or my quantum mechanical background, but I can bin them accordingly. And preparing for those might be helpful. I don't think so that right now when I interview someone and when they interviewed me, I cannot speak for the hiring manager, but they didn't ask me any question on drug development because they knew that I would not know a single question on drug development when I was applying. I was not from that field. So asking them this in advance, if somebody asks me when I'm hiring an intern, do I really need to know this? I would say no. I mean, if that was the criteria, I would probably not even interview you. But I can tell you what you need to know, and what we can question you on. So a lot of job already does that. For example, some of the technical rounds will tell you they're going to test you on your programming in Python or C++, or your presentation skills. So sometimes ask them directly, can you tell me exactly what you're going to judge me on, and then you can prepare on that and have that dedicate time to prepare.
I just have a follow-up question to what you said. Can I ask that?
If it's quick.
Yeah, just when you were making sure that did you approach some people in the company to ask them specifically, okay, which of these skills do I really need to be good at, and which of them it's okay to develop them later on.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I asked these questions to first of my networks that told me about this job, who are in similar positions. That when you applied, what kind of questions did you get? And you're not from the same field. How did you fit in? And then I asked the same question to my hiring manager, where the panel, that's not the panel, but two people who were had a first interview call with me. It's like a 20-minute phone call, just getting to know me without any technical questions. I asked them like, hey, based on my CV, I'm not from the same field. Why don't I question? Because there's time. There's say 6 days before the interview. I can focus to prepare and bring that on the table so that we can focus. So they told me very clearly, this is exactly that. They don't expect me to know everything about drug development, but they would ask me some questions which they would expect me to know the answers of. So that's from the technical side. Yeah, if just ask them. That's no harm in. They will always tell you what they're looking for.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. Good. Join me. Thank you.